Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you guys so much for 200 subscribers. It means the world to me, every single one of you guys that subscribe to my channel. I love you guys. But YouTube is telling me that only 5% of you guys that watch my videos are subscribed to my channel. So if we could get that percentage up, that would be very, very good. I just love all the support that you guys give me. Thank you guys so much. It means the world to me. But this video is about perk deck tier list. Now, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate in this video, so please don't leave hate in the comments down below. Just leave where you guys believe that I messed up. Get your guys rankings down below if you believe something else. And yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. If you guys enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment down below where I messed up. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So when creating this tier list, I didn't know if I was gonna rank CopyCat. I was very indecisive of doing it because you could basically make any perk deck with CopyCat. But I ranked CopyCat around the A tier, because for the reason that you could make very versatile builds. You could basically choose any perk deck. Like you could choose a hacker for the pocket ECMs, you could choose a Stoic. But the thing is with this build is that like Stoic and Leech, like those perk decks with the equipment, it makes it worse and it doesn't really give the full potential of the other perk decks. So if you want to use perk decks like Stoic or Leech, just use them, original ones. But CopyCat is a very good stealth one, but of course we're doing it on DSOD, so CopyCat isn't really one of the best ones. So this is why I rank it A tier. It's still a decent perk deck though. So if you like a very versatile perk decks, go ahead and use CopyCat. Now we're getting into actual ranking of stuff. So first of all, we got Anarchist. Now I might get a lot of hate for this, but I'm ranking Anarchist S tier, of course, just because of personal bias. It's my list, so I get to rank it. But so while editing this video, my dumbass is saying Arcanist for some reason. Don't mind me, I'm just a fucking dumbass. But let's get right back into it. I think Arcanist is one of my favorite perk decks, if not my favorite, because I believe that the perk deck is just broken. And I know the Payday community would probably agree with me, but essentially the perk deck is just converting the damage you deal to cops into armor. So the armor regen is very good, and if you know how to armor gate with Anarchist, it's just one of the greatest perks. Also, you could use a suit with it, so honestly that doesn't like slow down your movement speed also. And then if you run Arcanist with Berserker, it is very good overall. And this perk deck doesn't really have any downsides to it, in my opinion. So this is why I'm ranking it S tier. The next perk deck is Armor, of course. So Armor, I rank it at A tier. I do this because armor basically increases your armor, so the maximum of it, which is pretty good in DSOD. I mean, if you're running this and you're running like an armor build with an ICTV or something like that, it's pretty good. I mean, and it also you get armor recovery, which is pretty decent also. But the downside to this build, I mean, it's pretty fun and stuff like that, but I recommend other armor builds like Anarchist is so much better, and you'll succeed so much better with Anarchist. Armor is decent though if you want to have fun. It's a pretty easy perk deck to learn. I mean, all you gotta do is shoot cops to regenerate. You don't gotta shoot cops to regenerate, but you regenerate over time. So this is why I put it at A tier. It's pretty good. It's not as good as Anarchist, so this is why it's A tier. Up next, we got Biker. Now the Biker perk deck, I really haven't used so much, so this ranking might be a little off. But I know that using Biker, you get a health regen, and also your teammates get a health regen also by dealing damage to cops, which is pretty good if you have a coordinated team, I believe. But if you're playing solo, it might not be the best. So the downside basically is if you're playing solo, the regen might not be enough to stay alive in DSOD. And I believe that this perk deck is pretty bad in DSOD. I mean, it's good fun to use in Death Wish, but personally, there's a lot of better perk decks to use, and I believe that Biker lacks a lot of the things like armor regen and movement speed boost. I don't really enjoy using Biker from the times I've used it, so my bias puts it at a B. Now we see Burglar. Now if you use Burglar and DSOD, just delete your game, please, bro. This is literally a stealth build only. I mean, a stealth perk deck, my bad. But if you use Burglar and DSOD, you're literally vulnerable to everything. All you really get is a 20% armor recovery and some stealth skills, which are not ideal in DSOD. Like, why would you want death skills in a loud heist? Well, if you use this perk deck, I don't know, props to you, but this perk deck is really bad for DSOD. I'm gonna rank it at a D tier, honestly, because you get a little bit of dodge, but it's not enough dodge to be considered a dodge perk deck, which is pretty weird. And you also need a stand to get your armor recovery, which is literally kind of dumb. You just need to stay in place to get it, which is dumb. And this perk deck isn't even allowed perk decks and should only be used in stealth. But even in stealth, this perk deck lacks a lot of things. There's other better stealth builds, so this is why I rank Burglar at a D. Crew Chief. Now, this perk deck is a perk deck that I do use sometimes. I have a sniper build with Crew Chief, and I believe that Crew Chief is a very decent perk deck. I'm gonna rank it at a B tier over Biker, because Crew Chief is a very decent perk deck. I mean, you get increased max health, shout distance, and stamina, but it's pretty good in a coordinated team. If you have a team to play with, I recommend using Crew Chief. One of you guys on Crew Chief, you get a bunch of armor, a bunch of health, my bad, and then stamina increases, all that. Your regen is pretty good. The only downsides with this perk deck, I think, is that sometimes finding hostages is pretty hard depending on the heist you're doing. Sometimes hostages aren't available, so you have to convert jokers. And also, hostage taker can take your hostages away from, like, if your teammates have hostage taker, they'll probably take away your jokers just so they could get that little bit of regen. So this is why I believe it's a B tier. It would have been an A tier. Well, it could be an A tier in other heists, but I believe that overall this perk deck is at a B. So yeah. Okay, now we see Crook. Now, Crook is a pretty good perk deck for dodge, and I think it's better than Rogue because you can use a lightweight ballistic vest with it, which is pretty good. I like using lightweight ballistic vest with Crook. And then you get a faster armor regen, which is very ideal in DSOD, which is, I don't know, this perk deck is very mid though. It feels like Rogue, but better. And then it has some of the same problems as Rogue. With not having any equipment but dodge to try and stay alive, which makes you very vulnerable in DSOD. And I believe that there are other better dodge perk decks like Hacker out there, or even Sicario. So with that said, we're gonna rank it at B tier over Biker. I might get hate with the Biker situation, but you know, I don't really like it, so yeah, that's it. Now we see Ex-President. Now, Ex-President is a very decent perk deck. I believe that it can be very good if used properly in DSOD. If you use the health story aspect of the build properly, it could be very strong. The only thing I believe that this build has a downside in is that it leaves a lot of the things out that other perk decks give, like armor regen or movement speed and stuff like that, which makes the perk deck based on just health, which is not ideal. It's always good to have other things with this perk deck, so that's why I believe I'll rank it A tier under armor. Next up, we see Gambler. Now, Gambler is a perk deck more on the funner side of the game. I mean, if you want to have fun, use Gambler. It's pretty good. I mean, every time you pick up ammo, you heal yourself, which is pretty good, and your team also heals 50%, making it a fantastic team build, which is very good if you're running with a very coordinated team. I mean, if people use Gambler in the lobby, you will literally be almost unstoppable, basically. And also, this perk deck gives an amazing ammo pickup, which is very good too in DSOD. The only downsides with this perk deck, I mean, the health regen that you regenerate yourself is very, very small, and it's not enough to stay alive in DSOD. And the healing aspect of the build has a 3-second cooldown every time you pick up an ammo thing. So depending on the situation you are in, this can be very dangerous. I mean, it's one of the funner side perk decks, so I'm gonna rank it at a C tier, our first C tier. It's a decent perk deck. I mean, in DSOD, I wouldn't use it personally because, I don't know, I feel like it's a very RNG based perk deck. But yeah, it's a C tier. Okay, next up, we got Grinder. Now, Grinder is one of my favorite perk decks in this game too. Just how fun it is. It's a very fun perk deck. Just all you gotta do is basically shoot cops to get regen. Now, It's very easy to use for new players, which is the upside with this perk deck, because all you really gotta do is just shoot at cops and you regenerate health pretty quickly. So this perk deck is also very good with Viper Grenades. Now, if you use Viper Grenades with Grinder, you will have basically unlimited regen for that time. Now, the downsides of this perk deck is that using Grinder on higher difficulties can be very stressful because the health regen that you get will not be enough. I mean, it makes it very hard to survive with just a very little regen. So I recommend using this perk deck first, like in Death Wish, to see how the regen works and stuff like that. And also, you can't stay behind cover most of the time using this perk deck, because if you stay behind cover, you won't get that regen by shooting cops. So this perk deck is very aggressive. If you like aggressive perk decks and you like an easy perk deck to use Grinder. So by saying all of this, I think Grinder's B tier over Crook. It's over Crook just because I like the health regeneration, but it's under Crew Chief because I believe Crew Chief is better overall. We see a perk deck that can be argued one of the best perk decks in Payday 2. Hacker. Now, Hacker is one of my favorite perk decks in Payday 2. I like pairing it with Dodge, and it's because of how reliable the Pocket ECMs are and how reliable this this perk deck is. So we're gonna rank it at S tier under Anarchist. I love using Hacker because the Pocket ECMs heal you every time they're active, and it could be even better if you know how to properly juggle the Pocket ECMs. Learning how to juggle the Pocket ECMs basically makes you unstoppable. This perk deck, in my opinion, is the best perk deck in regards to dodge. It's better than Sicario in my opinion. I don't know if people agree with me, but the only downsides with Hacker is that the only thing that you really need to do is learn how to juggle the Pocket ECMs at first. I mean, it's still good without the juggling, but I recommend learning how to do it. It's much easier to use if you know how to. It's a very good dodge build. It's under Anarchist though, just because of my personal bias, but I think Anarchist is a little better. But Hacker is a very good perk deck. Use it if you need a dodge perk deck. So yeah, I rank it S tier, but under Anarchist. We see Hitman. Now, Hitman is a very mediocre perk deck. This perk deck is pretty bad. I mean, there's no point of using it anymore. You used to have to use Hitman to use akimbo weapons, but Hitman is very, very lackluster of skills. Hitman is terrible. I mean, you do get a little armor recovery, which is pretty good, and it boosts the total ammo with the akimbo weapons, but it's just very bad. It lacks a lot of stuff. This perk deck is very old, and it doesn't have much purpose to use anymore since they removed having to use this perk deck to use akimbo weapons. I think there's mostly every perk deck is better than Hitman, so we're gonna rank it under Burglar, D tier. Next, we see Infiltrator. Now, Infiltrator is pretty weird, just for the fact that I never used this perk deck. Like, I don't remember even using this perk deck once, but I did use it one time. I remember this, and I know that it gives pretty good damage reduction, which is a plus, and then pairing it up with armor can be very good. It is also a very simple and basic perk deck to use for newer players, and then you gain the ability to basically heal off melee attacks. Now, Infiltrator, I guess it's a very mid perk deck to me, in my opinion. There's many downsides, like the ability to get health from melee kills is only available every 10 seconds, which is not ideal in DSOD, and it makes it hard to stay alive with just that little portion of health you get from melee attacks. So in DSOD, it's not ideal. You could use it in lower difficulties like Death Wish. It's pretty good in Death Wish. I use it sometimes, but I hardly use it. I even forgot this perk deck was in the game. But we're gonna rank it above Gambler, C tier, because I believe that is better than Gambler, but it's not better than the perk decks above it. Next perk deck is KingPin. Now, KingPin is one of my favorite perk decks in this game, just due to the fact that it allows for aggressive play. This is a very aggressive perk deck. If you like aggressive perk decks, go ahead and use it. You can make very versatile builds with this perk deck, and you get healed once you get damaged. So basically, when KingPin is activated, you can run across and get shot by every cop and you'll still get healed for it, and basically you'll be invincible for the time that it's active. The only downside with this perk deck is that it could take time to learn because it is very different from other perk decks like Stoic or Leech. But once you learn it, this is a very good and fun build, and it's very powerful. But the basically the main downside is that it's not in the shop anymore. So you're gonna need to download a mod, or you can't use the perk deck basically because the Scarface pack is not in Steam shop anymore. So we're gonna put KingPin over Anarchist. I find it to be my bias. I believe that KingPin is fucking broken. If you want to use an aggressive perk deck, go ahead. It's in the S tier. Okay, next, the most broken perk deck in Payday 2, Leech. Now, Leech is fucking broken. Like I just said, it's broken as fuck. This perk deck is so fucking amazing. It's one of the best perk decks in the game. And it's the best perk deck in the game. This perk deck is my favorite perk deck in the game also. It's one of my favorite ones. Like, I might prefer it over Anarchist depending on the day, but this perk deck feels like you're cheating. Self-res mechanic in this build is broken as fuck. It could come in clutch if you need to revive a teammate in a sticky situation. The healing aspect of this perk deck is fucking amazing, and I love how your health splits into fragments, which is very good. I love it. Leech can also be used in basically any build, making it so great, making it so versatile. The downside is that there's no fucking downside. This perk deck is fucking broken as fuck. Obviously, if we could make our own like tier, Leech would be on his own tier. That's how OP it is. It's better than KingPin, Anarchist, and Hacker. So I'd put it top of S tier. I don't think no perk deck could top it off. So yeah, Maniac. Now Maniac is a perk deck that is good, but it's not good for DSOD. It's not at that level of DSOD. Maniac is pretty fun to use in lower difficulties because the damage absorption is pretty fun, but it's not enough in DSOD. That's the problem. So the downside is, as I just previously said, this perk deck is good on lower difficulties, but it lacks a lot on higher difficulties like DSOD because the Hysteria stacks are not enough to heal you. So we're gonna put this at C tier just for the fact that it's pretty fun to use. I mean, if you have a good build, it'll probably be good in DSOD, but the healing is not good enough for DSOD. So that's why I believe it's the lowest perk deck on C tier. Next, we see Muscle. Now this perk deck is pretty fun. It's like the twin of basically Armor, but if you want to be fucking Godzilla running around and getting fucking healed like crazy, use this perk deck. This perk deck is very easy to use and it's very beginner friendly. So if you're a new player, go ahead and use Muscle. It's pretty easy to use, and you basically also get Hostage Taker Basic included in the perk deck, so that's a very good upside. But the cons with its perk deck is that it can be very boring since it doesn't have like that unique aspect. It's just healing your health, and I believe Armor is better. And also there's better health regeneration perk decks out there. So Muscle, I believe it's lower than Armor. Armor has like a pretty good ability in DSOD, but Muscle just really isn't that good. So I'll put it probably under Grinder and B tier. Grinder is much better with the health regeneration. Muscle is like a fucking Godzilla build. Like, you could literally heal a lot, but it's not that good in DSOD. That's the thing. I believe that it's better in lower difficulties, but DSOD is just lackluster in there. So it's B, mid B tier. Okay, so next we see Rogue. Now Rogue is very, very mid. I was gonna say good, but it's very mid compared to the other dodge builds. I mean, perk deck. So I might keep on saying builds, bro. What the fuck? So it's a very good perk deck. I mean, if you use it properly, it's pretty good if you know how to use dodge and shit like that. But the perk deck is fun to use like on Death Wish, but on Death Sentence it could be very stressful to use since you only have dodge protecting you, which is bad, and it's not ideal because you don't have any equipment like pocket ECMs or the smoke grenades with Sicario. It's a good way for new players to learn the dodge concept, which is an upside though, so it's pretty good. And then you get like that boosted weapon swap speed, which is, I think it's pointless to be honest, but it's pretty good still. The downsides with Rogue is that it isn't reliable since you have no equipment, like I obviously said. You don't have that pocket ECM or smoke grenade to give you that extra boost of dodge or to stun enemies, and therefore I believe that it is a B tier perk deck, but under Crook think Crook is better than Rogue. Next, we see Sicario. Now, Sicario is probably up there with the best dodge perk decks, and I believe that Sicario is really good because it allows you for aggressive play with the smoke grenades, giving you that boost, obviously with for the dodge. And then also Sicario gives dodge to your teammates, which is very good. If your other teammates are running dodge builds, that dodge stacks up, which makes you more, which makes the perk deck more reliable, basically, for them. So Sicario is a very versatile perk deck also that can be used with basically almost any build. You can use any weapons with this perk deck. I believe that the only downsides with Sicario is that it has a big learning curve, and using the smoke grenades, it can be hard, but once you get used to it, obviously, it's a very fun perk deck. It's very good. It's very reliable. So this is why I believe it's a A tier. It's under ex-president, but I like ex-president. It's just a little bit more than Sicario. So this is why I believe it's A tier, but under ex-president and hacker, obviously. Next, we see Sociopath. Now, Sociopath is like Infiltrator, but in my opinion, it's better because it's easier to use. And after you get the hang of it, it can be very fun because the melee attacks do heal you like Infiltrator. You also get damage reduction in your health and armor regen, which is pretty good. This is why I believe it's better than Infiltrator. Because you get that extra bonus of like damage reduction and then armor regen. And then, but there is some downsides with this. You do need to utilize your melee attacks to heal you, or else you don't get that regen of health. Or you could use your skill points on hostage taker or things that'll get you like health regen, which is not ideal. You want to use your skill points in more useful stuff. So this is why I believe that Sociopath is pretty decent. It's better than Infiltrator for sure, but it's not like one of the greatest perk decks in my opinion. So we're gonna put Sociopath like mid B tier, like in between Muscle and Crook. It's a pretty good perk deck, I think, just because of that extra bonuses. It's better than Infiltrator. So yeah, it has to be above. So it's a B tier, mid B tier, in between Muscle and Crook. Okay, next we see Stoic. Now Stoic is one of the best perk decks in this game, I believe, and it's just very good because the flask is very OP if you get it down and you learn how to use it. I mean, this perk deck is very amazing. The healing that you get with the flask is amazing, and the perk deck is one of the easier ones to master because it's not like Leech where you have to basically throw something to heal. All you gotta do is press 3 or whatever button it is for you, and you get that little flask, and then you heal, which is very good. A ton of players use this in Payday because of how amazing it is and how fun it could be if used correctly, obviously. So the only downsides with this perk deck, I think, is really learning how to use the flask at first. At first, it can be confusing for somebody that's just getting into Stoic, but once you get the hang of it, the SOD will be easy for you because of how broken this perk deck is. I recommend going into like Death Wish or lower difficulties to learn how the flask works at first, and basically once you get it down, go into DSOD and it should be pretty easy. So this perk deck is definitely a S tier perk deck. I think it's like mid S tier. It's like in between KingPin and Anarchist. Of course, it's over Anarchist. I do have a bias for Anarchist because it's one of my favorite perk decks, but I think that Stoic does have that upper hand in Payday. So yeah. And now we see Tag Team. Now Tag Team is a perk deck that I don't use at all because I'm mostly a solo player. I don't really have a team, so Tag Team is basically useless for me. But if you're in a team, Tag Team is a perk deck that is very unique, and it could be fun if you have like that a coordinated team. Tag Team can also be used with many different builds, making it very versatile. I don't really like the tag aspect where you tag somebody and then when they get kills you get that health regen. I don't really like that aspect because I'm a solo player, but obviously if you play in a team, I believe there's better perk decks to bring, like Crew Chief or something like that. There's very much downsides with this perk deck. It's not one of my favorite ones at all, obviously. I believe that this perk deck needs a very coordinated team for it to be good, and using it in pubs could be very frustrating because if you tag somebody and they don't go kill anybody, the perk deck is fucking useless. So you also have to rack up a lot of kills and go out your way out of cover. You could go down a lot of the times, and if you don't get that like enough kills to heal yourself, you can't fill up the vape, which can make the build basically useless. So I'll rank this build C tier over Gambler. I think this perk deck is better than Gambler because you could heal a teammate and basically heal yourself, but it's under Infiltrator. I think Infiltrator is a funner build to use. Tag Team is not one of my favorites. I hate that build, so yeah, C tier. The last perk deck on this list is Yakuza. Now, Yakuza is a very mid perk deck to use. I believe that Yakuza isn't one of the best or one of the worst perk decks. I believe that it's like right in the middle. So like maybe like C tier. But you do get armor recovery, which is pretty decent. I mean, in DSOD. And also you get like that armor increase, which is pretty decent as well. You do get movement speed when you're lower health, which is okay, I guess, in DSOD. I don't really find that like a necessity. But the downsides of this perk deck is that it feels like it needs more improvement. Like it lacks a lot of stuff. It can feel worthless using on DSOD because the deck lacks a lot of like skill. And also when using Yakuza perk deck, if you don't have Frenzy or Berserker, this perk deck is actually useless. Like it's basically useless. Like if you don't have those two skills, this perk deck feels like you're using no perk deck. So in that regards, I believe this perk deck is C tier, in between Tag Team and Gambler. This perk deck isn't one of the good ones. It isn't one of the bad ones. It's just very mid. I recommend using this perk deck and stuff though. That movement speed is very good. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please sure to give me a like, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 300 subscribers as soon as possible. But thank you guys so much for 200 subscribers. That means the world to me. And if you guys can leave a comment down below where you think I messed up and give me your opinion, I'll be reading all of your guys' comments. So thank you so much once again, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.